Hello, everyone. It is TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti, the show that we kind of rewind what we talked about on the program. Eric, what was your favorite part of the show?
Favorite part of the show? I like the go hour with Obi. He always gets me going in the mornings.
What is going on, Nick Savage, in the background?
Yeah, I just
Why do
heard,
I
like,
hear
some
an elephant?
It's Dalton. He's yelling about something. I don't know. He just said Leroy Jenkins. And that's Ryan Browninger.
See, what these guys don't understand is I'm running a professional show here. Where on
and
this
why do you have me on?
Now that you mention that, good point. Why did you force Coach Henry to listen to Too Legit to Quit?
Because apparently that's my most favorite song ever, and Eric's most favorite song ever is
Two Times.
Yeah,
What's
one
it?
up this time.
Who sings that? The Cha-Cha Man? What was it?
Cha-Cha Slide Man.
I already
don't know.
forgot his name.
Eric, do you love that song for reals?
I mean, I don't really love it that much, but I always listen to it at weddings. I mean, it's like
How many weddings have you been to? Come on.
I've been to a lot of weddings in the past 2 years.
Yeah?
Yep.
Ring Boy?
Oh my gosh! Of course you're gonna bring that one up.
Just kidding. Just kidding. That was rude. I apologize. I saw it was there. Nick, was that a good one?
That was a layup. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
easy.
It was. I had to do it.
It's going to happen in this office.
All right. So on the show today, what did we have?
Well, we had the big shots of the week with UNOB, talking a little NFL with Charean Williams. Cav Neutze gave his perspective on the Masters and talked a little bit about Brian Corton and Sam Bennett. Really interesting to hear him. He's had a pretty close relationship with Coach Corton, so cool to see. And, of course, had Tom Hart talking about the Masters. David, are we going to have an outro? Are we stopping it today?
No outros today.
All right.
Because if people don't know to like, comment, and subscribe already, then what are they even doing on YouTube?
Yeah, good point.
Just watch the video.
Bye.
We're going to go back to Jace. He's hit safely in 10 out of his last 12 games with 20 RBI in that stretch. Batted .400 this weekend, 6 of 15. He hit 3 homers. Goodness. 5 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 4 extra base hits. He was phenomenal.
Browninger told me this guy was going to be something special, and then he got to that lull, and you're starting to say, well, Browninger, when's it going to come through? And
Well,
now it has.
It's come through. The other one that you mentioned, Sam Bennett, how can you not mention him, was on the last day of the Masters in that final group, right? In the mix. What was he, in third place heading into the final day? I know that the third round was a little long for him, but just tied for 16th. 9 birdies, 1 eagle. Just an incredible run there for Sam Bennett. Deserves all of it.
Yeah.
And then the last one, OB. Are you familiar with Q?
Quentin Jackson?
Quentin
Heck
Jackson.
yeah, I saw he's doing really well for the Bullets.
Look at this.
Not the Bullets, the Wizards.
Look at this performance against the Houston Rockets. 19 points, 9 of 13, 5 assists, 2 steals. By the way, that 19 a career high. He also had several dunks that were highlights on Twitter if you haven't seen them. Really good plays. Quentin Jackson just proven to the world that he was ready for the NBA, and he's going to make the Wizards look like a smart team for picking him up, and a bunch of other NBA GMs look weird for not drafting him.
Yeah, I just really look forward to seeing what he can do against an NBA team.
Boom.
I'm a big fan of Quentin Jackson. I always have been. Great person.
I heard this on the way in today. I was listening to a Houston sports radio station on my way in today, and they said a year ago today, you would have said that the Rockets were closer to being a contender than the Texans.
Yeah, I think receivers, teams are down on receivers. I don't know that there'll be as many receivers go in the first round as what we think maybe will go in the first round. I think there'll be fewer than thought of. Now, it may be like quarterbacks where teams feel like, oh, we have to have a receiver, so we're going to go ahead and take the best one on our board, because by the time we get to the second round, there's going to be even fewer on the board. But they are not high on this receiver group this year. I think that's one thing. And it does look like Bryce Young, all indications are Bryce Young will be the first overall pick, which then will be interesting for Houston with that second pick. Do they go C.J. Stroud? I think they certainly should go C.J. Stroud, but will they go C.J. Stroud? That'll be interesting. So always at the top, it's interesting. And then what do the Cardinals do with that third pick? They've gotten some interest, but nothing concrete yet. And I think that trade will be made, if it's made, while they're on the clock. But if they trade down, they're not going to get Will Anderson. So do they sit there and just say, unless we get an offer that blows us away, with multiple picks, we're just going to sit here at number 3 and take the best player on the draft board, which is Will Anderson. So, I think the top of the draft board always is interesting. But I think if that trade happens, it'll probably be on draft day, right as the Cardinals come on to the clock with the team looking to draft a quarterback. Maybe the Colts or, somebody else moves up who's seeking that third quarterback. But I don't know that beyond those first 2 quarterbacks, there's a quarterback I would trade up to number 3 overall to get. To me, there's just no surefire guy there that I would move up to get. There's not a Justin Herbert you're going to move up to get. There's just not. So I think I would, at that point, just sit back and see who falls to me and take my chances that one of those remaining guys will be there. Hendon Hooker very well could go in the first round despite that ACL injury, with the team late in the first round that picks him and knows he's going to have to sit on the bench at least a year and groom him to become the starter. I think he's a very interesting prospect to watch.
It's incredible, man. I mean, he loves the game, and he loves these kids, and he loves doing it for the right reasons. And I took a lot of joy out of seeing him walk Sam around Augusta because I know how big of a role he played in that, and that you can't take for granted what he brought to the stage there. And I think I probably enjoyed watching him as much as I enjoyed watching Sam because I know more than most what he was probably telling him. And how he was helping guide. And what was fun is that, it ties back to, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but it ties back deep into golf history. It reminds me of Francis Ouimet at the 1913 U.S. Open. So for those who don't know that story, Francis Ouimet grew up across the street in Boston from Brookline Country Club, or the Country Club at Brookline, sorry. And when the U.S. Open came there in 1913, as a 20-year-old, he took down the 2 greatest British players of their time, 2 professionals, and won the U.S. Open as a 20-year-old. And he had a 10-year-old on his caddy, or as his caddy, named Eddie Lowry. And Eddie Lowry believed that Francis Ouimet could win the U.S. Open. And Francis Ouimet did. And this week, I truly believe that Brian Corton thought that Sam could win the Masters. And you could feel that, and you could sense that. And I think Sam used that ability of knowing that Brian was on his side, and he's like, it's us against the world, and I think that really helped. And nobody knows Sam's game better than Brian, and his ability to work him around the course and lead him in the right places and keep his head in the right place. I mean, to get in the final group in the 3rd round of the Masters and keep your head is incredible.
So you mentioned you have a good idea of some of the things he was telling him. What do you think? Just share some insight. What kind of conversations are they having, keeping Sam in the moment and keeping his confidence where it needs to be?
I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that when he's playing with Scotty Scheffler the first 2 rounds, I'm sure he let him know, hey, this is just another Longhorn, right? And go out there and beat him. And I'm sure that he was referencing moments that he's had in past tournaments, whether that's at A&M or the U.S. Amateur or shots that Sam has pulled off, because the golf ball doesn't know who you are, and the golf ball doesn't know where you are.
You see the same guy every year, and it's a guy who's just either sunburned or still drenched wet, and this year it was drenched wet, wearing a Masters hat and a Masters shirt and carrying a bag where he spent like another $750 in the gift shop buying gnomes or balls or, coffee mugs or pint glasses, whatever it is. And he's schlepping back home after, spending way too much money in a great, but too inviting merchandise tent. That's kind of the tradition of the patrons.
To localize it a little bit, Sam Bennett obviously caught a lot of
what
attention.
A story.
Right? Just from a national perspective, what did you think?
I was blown away. Once again, I didn't get to see a ton of the golf. And on Sunday, they didn't show him a lot when I was watching. And I kept asking, watching in the press box, we're in San Antonio for XFL. Hey, where's Bennett? Got to the airport right after the game. Is Bennett done? Where is he? Why aren't they showing him? Like, where's his score? But I was so impressed with him early on. And I'm sure you guys have discussed this, but when he was with Scott Van Pelt, was it Thursday or Friday afternoon? And Van Pelt was trying to lead him, but not lead too much. And he goes, hey, man, like, you're an amateur. You're in Butler Cabin right now. And you could be back here on Sunday wearing a green jacket or as the amateur champion. And Bennett just kind of looked at him and he goes, well, first of all, I'm more nervous sitting in here than I ever am on the golf course. Because Van Pelt was asking about like his comportment on the golf course. Like you're having this turned in this amazing round. You're up to this incredible start. How do you keep it all together? And he's like, well, that's kind of like, that's what I do. I play golf. You know, I hit my 9-iron 172 yards on the number. And that's how I play. But then he asked him about being back in Butler Cabin on Sunday after the final round. And he had this great answer that was equal parts confident, comfortable, and cocky, I think. And he said, you know, everyone, when they talked to me about coming here this weekend, wished me luck and said, hey, maybe you could win the low-am. And he goes, and I looked at him and said, well, I only have to beat 6 other dudes to do that. Like, kind of like, I'm here. I might as well win the whole thing.